It's last call for football on FanDuel, with one last round of rewards every day through Super Bowl 60. One last week for one more chance. Visit the FanDuel app all week long for limited time boost every day until football runs out. FanDuel, official partner of Super Bowl 60.
New customers bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets if you win. 21 plus and present in select states. First online real money wager only. $5 deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets which expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See full terms at FanDuel.com/sportsbook. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit rg-help.com.
Good morning, everybody. It is Jay Scott. This is The Hook Rocks, the ultimate rock community podcast. Hope everyone's having a good day, getting ready for the holidays. Welcome to another edition of the New Music Spotlight. This is our last episode for 2019. We'd like to welcome our latest guest all the way from the UK, Mr. Ryan Antony from Ryders Creed. How you doing today, Ryan?
Hello, how you doing? You okay?
Thank you for doing this. Greatly appreciate it. Been a fan of you guys since the album came out over the summer. The debut record. Great debut release. But once again, thank you for doing this. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Cheers. No, thank you very, very much for having me. I'm very, very, very happy that you're a fan of the album. That means a lot. Thank you very much.
Yes. We'll get into the album here in a bit, but we always start the New Music Spotlight, or any time we have a new guest, with the same first question, and that is the essence of the show, which is just like every rock song has a hook that sucks you in, every rock fan has a moment, whether it's a band, a performance, a song, or an album that hooked them on rock and roll. What was it for you, Ryan?
Well, that's a good question. I think for me, my dad was the one that hooked me onto rock and roll. From a very early age, I've been brought up listening to the music that my dad grew up listening to. So all of the classic rock bands like, Led Zeppelin and Guns N' Roses, Black Sabbath, and then more of the sort of the modern sort of music coming up into the 90s, like Audio Slave and a few grunge bands like Pearl Jam and stuff like that, and then moving into the more sort of modern today music, it's bands like Black Stone Cherry and Alter Bridge. So, right from a very early age, I was introduced to rock and roll, and it just kind of stuck, and it made me want to do it, and made me want to live the same lifestyle and perform on stage and do the same thing. So yeah, it was my dad really that hooked me on rock and roll. Yeah.
What was it, where did it go from there? Your dad introduced you to all these bands. Was there an artist? Was there a song? Was there a moment that you heard a track being played that made you want to perform?
Well, my dad is a massive Rush fan. And when I was younger, he took me to see a couple of big concerts. One of which was a Rush concert when they released the Snakes and Arrows album, and I went to see that live in Birmingham, and it just completely blew me away. Like the entire stage production, the fact that they combined video with their live performance, the fact that the band is just a three-piece band, and yet this insane, huge sound comes out from what they play, and just how the entire thing from start to finish is just one massive performance and one massive show. It really opened my eyes to the possibilities of what people can actually do when they put their minds to it and they want to get on stage and wow a whole bunch of people, really. So I think for me personally, it was when my dad took me to see Rush live in concert in Birmingham that really sort of kick-started my drive to want to do that myself.
Was there an artist that made you want to write music? You know, was it a song that you heard? I know, because there's the evolution of the artist, right? There's the introduction of rock music, and then there's the want to play it and want to perform it. Was there a moment where there was a want to write it? You know, was there a song or like another band? What was it like for you?
Yeah, I guess there was. So one of my biggest influences, and one of the people who I really aspired to be like, really, when I was younger and stuff, and what really kick-started me writing my own music and trying to develop my vocal range to become sort of what I am now, and then also try to achieve what I always kind of want to be, and constantly keep trying to improve. I think one of the main artists really was, for me, Chris Cornell. My dad introduced me to Audio Slave when we were driving around in our little car to and from sailing when I was younger, and he used to put on the tapes of Audio Slave's debut album. And I think hearing Chris Cornell with his quite haunting vocals and his really cleverly written metaphorical lyrics and stuff like that really inspired me to try and sort of put my feelings and my emotions onto a piece of paper and write the same way and try and develop my own sort of technique and stuff from him. But I think the artist really that did it for me was Chris Cornell, yeah.
Now, once you heard the Audio Slave material, which is absolutely phenomenal, did you go back and listen to the Soundgarden? Did you check out his solo stuff?
Oh, yeah, I did. Yeah, very much so. I actually became an avid follower of Chris Cornell. I went back and looked at and listened to all of the Soundgarden stuff. And, you know, a few of the Soundgarden tracks I'm a fan of. Wasn't massively sort of into the Soundgarden project that he did, but I do love them and really rate them as a band. But Audio Slave, for me, their 3 albums was where it was for me a massive kind of turning point in my head and as me as a person, sort of thing. So, but his solo stuff is also absolutely fantastic. Like when he did the theme tune for Casino Royale, You Know My Name. I thought that was an absolutely fantastic track as well, and so I sort of kept up with his singles and with his solo material, and found out that just before he passed away, that he was working on doing some Johnny Cash songs and stuff with the same team that worked with Johnny Cash and stuff like that, and you know, he became a massive interest point for me, and I followed him ever since, really.
No, he's a phenomenal artist, phenomenal singer. It's tragic what happened to him. I think there was so much more material for him to come and so much more evolution, of him that we did not get to see. And it's a shame. He did leave us with some great music, but we always want more, right? And that's that's the definition of a great artist. Is you're never satisfied with what you have.
Yeah, 100%. He was taken way too young, and he had so much more to give, and it was hugely tragic. And out of all the celebrities and stuff that we hear of, passing away every single year, I think Chris Cornell was one of the ones that reduced me to tears. It hit me hard when he passed, and for the way that he passed as well. You sort of end up listening to his material a lot with different ears. You end up hearing the pain and hearing the struggle in some of his lyrics and stuff, and thinking, God, why didn't we notice this sooner? It's crazy what thought process you go through after one of your idols passes away into the reasons why they did so. But yeah, it's hugely tragic, and he is sorely missed by a great many people. Yeah, indeed.
Tell us about the history of Ryders Creed. You guys were formed in 2017. The debut album came out. Talk about just the history and where you guys come from.
Yeah, so we formed in May 2017, and we actually it was kind of like like a phoenix rising from the ashes, really. Me and Miles and Richard were in a band previously, and that didn't end too well. But we decided that we definitely didn't want to stop, and we had a lot more to give, and we didn't want to give up. So we actively, I think we only had 6 days before our next booked commitment. So we literally created Ryders Creed, got two of the members involved, and sort of hit the practice studio and started rehearsing, and started writing and getting everything artwork-wise sorted and stuff within 6 days, so that we were ready to play our next show, because we didn't want to let any of the booking agents down, and we didn't want to, let anybody that sort of booked us on shows throughout the rest of that year, we didn't want to let them down. So we had to work really, really hard, and I think we pulled it off. And yeah, so just it came together quite nicely, almost as if it was meant to happen,
Absolutely. Yeah. So you guys started playing. When did the writing process start?
So the writing process of Ryders Creed is it's a music and lyrics based. So and in that order as well. So what we do is we sit down in our lockup or our practice room or the cabin at the back of Richard's mum's garden, for example, or wherever we are. We sit down and we come up with music, and we write the music, and we write what we feel and what we're liking at the time, and we derive influences from different bands that we're listening to at the time, and we just really put our heads together and create some music that we all feel extremely positive about. And then once that music is down and we've got that demoed, and I have something that I can listen to on repeat over and over again, I will then come up with a separate melody that will lie on top of the music that's been created. And then once I've got the melody, I'll come up with the lyrics. And the lyrics, for me, is basically kind of however that song makes me feel. So however I feel when I'm listening to the music that the other lads have written and demoed, I will then come up with lyrics to go with that. So it is very much a music and lyrics scenario, and in that exact order.
Now, with the 4 of you, everyone has their own different influences. How is that collaborative effort brought in? How does everybody bring in their own ideas, and how does the band, start the creation from those ideas?
Well, yeah, actually, it works really well because our influences are, some of the bands that we hold as our influences and our idols and whatnot whilst we're writing are the same as each other's, and yet we do have extremely different influences as well. So, for example, my influences, like I've just mentioned, are like Audio Slave and Alter Bridge and Aerosmith and bands like that, and vocalists like those, Chris Cornell and Miles Kennedy and Steven Tyler. But then Richard, our bass player, for example, he's got Motorhead and Iron Maiden and, believe it or not, like 80s house music, kind of drum and bass kind of influences as well that come across in his influences, with his, the way that he finds it very groovy and bouncy, and the way that he's able to sort of really play the bass guitar as if it's an actual guitar itself, because he was a guitarist first. Our drummer, Lee, his influences derive from funk and soul and groove, and also takes influences from like Red Hot Chili Peppers, for example, and Neil Peart from Rush, and different influences like that. And Miles, our guitarist, he takes influences from Blackstone Cherry and Pink Floyd, and bands like that, and almost bands of a heavier nature as well, like moving into the sort of hardcore and melodic metal kind of influences as well, just to get that real kind of groove to this hard rock that we're creating, which our listeners and our fans will definitely be able to hear those influences within the new album, because we've taken a little bit of a heavier, more adult, more mature approach to our music in the new album. So yeah, our influences come from everywhere, but realistically they all work extremely well together, and we're very, very lucky that is the case.
You put the band together to finish these shows that you had commitments for, and then you started writing with each other. And then as you write, you develop more material, you get out and play it. How has the new music in the UK, how receptive have people been? I know here in North America, it's difficult for a new band to find a platform for people to, well, it's not difficult to find a platform, but it's difficult for people to connect with where they're at and find their platforms to find their music. How is that in the UK?
In all fairness, I think it's rather fantastic in the UK, especially right now. The platform for bands like ours to actually get out there and show our music and showcase our music to, you know, a wider audience and to reach new fans, to play more stages and more venues around the UK is really, really fantastic, and it's a growing thing. You know, it almost gets better every year. And so when we started back in 2017, it was almost like we jumped in right at the correct time. It was like the resurgence of rock and roll and hard rock was just getting off the ground. And we actually have a group of people, like a Facebook group in the UK called the New Wave of Classic Rock. And the New Wave of Classic Rock, it doesn't just include bands from the UK, you know, it includes bands from the USA and all around the world, Australia as well. It's another prominent one. We've got a lot of really amazing rock bands coming out of Australia at the moment as well. And it's just a fantastic platform. And this group has grown huge amounts since it first started. I think we're just over 15,500 followers in this group at the moment. And it's just full of rock music fans that are desperate for new bands and new material and, you know, new music and stuff, and to go and see it. And the following in the UK at the moment for the new wave of classic rock scene is absolutely phenomenal, and it is growing by the month. And I think that we are now hitting this new generation of rock and roll and this resurgence of rock and roll at exactly the right time. And I think it's going to recycle from what it was in the 70s and the 80s. It's just going to bring this new era of bands and stuff, and it's extremely exciting to be a part of it. So yeah, in the UK, it's fantastic at the moment. Yeah.
I believe that. I believe that it's right underneath the surface here, right in North America and also in the UK and other areas as well. There's so much new great music coming out from new bands, and I think it's coming. I think there's this big wave coming. There's, I mean, literally dozens and dozens of bands that are out there right now that are producing top-notch material, such as yourselves, and I think that within the next year, 2 years, it's going to start becoming more mainstream, and it's going to become more popular with the youth of today. I mean, I have a 14-year-old son who listens to rock music, you know, compared to his friends in high school who may listen to other things. Him and his small group, they have like this thing going on with rock music, which I think is really cool. And when you see that, you know it's about to turn. Do you feel the same way?
Yes, yeah, 100%. Yeah, but it's exciting. It's really exciting. I mean, you know, just by looking at adverts on the TV, for example, nowadays, a lot more rock bands are being used in adverts that would, you know, traditionally use pop music, and a lot more rock music is being used in a lot more sort of media outlets. And I think it's really, really exciting that, you know, as you say, it's right under the surface, and it's, you know, it's just sort of bubbling and sort of ready to explode into this kind of proper rock and roll kind of resurgence kind of thing. I think it's really, really exciting, and to be a part of it as well, especially at the correct time. Like we just kind of hit the scene at the right time, and hopefully, fingers crossed, our music will be, you know, the music that people end up listening to. You know, the rock bands of yesterday are stopping or retiring, or unfortunately members are dying. And, it's making a huge gap in the market for bands like ours to fill. And I think it's insanely exciting. So yeah, you're right. It's very good. It's very good.
Well, I often say that too. With the classic rock bands that are touring and making new music, they only have a certain amount of time before they won't be able to tour anymore. I mean, a lot of these bands are in their 60s and 70s. A lot of these bands are very physical on stage, meaning they move around and they're very active. And as they get older, it's going to be harder and harder for them to do that. I know Metallica has talked about that, about how their shows are and how active they are on stage, that they may only have one more album. So over the next 10 years, the landscape is going to change, and there's this new wave of rock coming that I think it benefits people to, of course, keep liking the bands that you like, but also, pay attention to the stuff that's coming, because it's really good and it really plays off those influences that, we all love.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, like bands like Aerosmith, for example. I mean, Steven Tyler's got to be, 72, 73, or somewhere around there at the moment.
He's definitely over 70. Yeah,
100%. Yeah, I think I remember seeing his 70th birthday posts on Instagram and stuff a couple of years ago. So I know he's around the 72, 73 kind of place, but you're right. I mean, they're no spring chickens anymore. Then they move around on stage. They're very active. The stages they play are huge, and you see these people running around the stage like they're kids still. And I think part of how they're still able to do that is because they're living the life of their dreams. They're living a very, very happy, exciting, opportunistic kind of lifestyle. And I think that's amazing. It's definitely a way of staying young, at least feeling like you're staying young, But you're right, they're not going to be around forever. And within the next sort of 10 years, we will see a massive kind of change in the landscape, like you said. So I think for music fans out there, and I think for people who avidly follow bands and go out to gigs and travel to see bands, as much as it is amazing to see all of these, old school bands like Aerosmith and the Rolling Stones and AC/DC and Guns N' Roses and bands like that, I think it is great to go and see them. But for the price of a ticket to go and see these bands that are still doing the same things that they were doing, 40 years ago, 30 years ago and whatever, I think that if you were to take that money and put that money into a £6 or dollars, for example, like a $10 ticket or a $15 ticket to go and see up-and-coming new artists playing music that might very well end up being your favorite music for the rest of your years to come, it's definitely something that people should be keeping an open mind about going and supporting the new scenes and supporting the up-and-coming music and the bands of tomorrow, because when the bands of today are gone, all you'll have the CDs and the vinyls, and you'll be able to listen to them online. But supporting the new music is how you can create that atmosphere and that experience for the younger generations as well as yourselves. So it's definitely important to support new music and keep going back to the new bands and supporting the new bands.
Absolutely. I have seen so many great new bands for almost next to nothing. I mean, $15, $20 to see these new great bands come and play and become fans of them and start to follow them and hear their material. I think of one example that I've mentioned before on different shows, but I saw Tyler Bryant with Temperance Movement over the summer in Chicago, and the tickets were $18 a piece. And it was, it was
fantastic band.
Yeah.
Absolutely phenomenal band.
And, it's $18 for a ticket. You have a good time. There's 3 hours of great music. and you leave there and you feel energized because you saw a new act, you saw some new music that's created that connects with you as a rock fan. I can't stress enough how important that is and how easy it is for someone to go and do that. It's not, you're not breaking the bank to go see a classic rock band that's going to cost you over $100, plus the money for alcohol once you get into the show, and the cost for parking, is in the U.S. is anywhere from $20 to $35 just to park your car. So, it's it really is beneficial for you to go see it, for a rock fan to go see it, and it's economically beneficial too. I mean, you're going to go out on a Friday and Saturday night. You might as well go see some rock music that you're going to enjoy, right? I mean, that's the whole idea.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like 100%. I mean, in the UK, tickets to a show, like a show supporting up and coming bands and some new music and stuff, shows range anywhere between £5 a ticket to, up to £18, £20 a ticket. So, and it really isn't breaking the bank, like you said. It's like you have your drinks money, for the price of one of these massive bands that you're going to go and see. You've got your parking money, you've got your drinks money, merchandise money, so that you can put money back into the band's pockets and support them, as well as the ticket and entry fee to get into the show itself. I think that you're right. It's definitely a better thing to do, to go and support the newer artists and the bands that you will love for years and years to come, because these are the bands bringing out their debut albums, and these are the bands that are bringing out new music on a regular basis, whereas the bands of yesterday, most of them are still touring the same things they've been playing for the last 40 years. And we know we love the songs. We've downloaded and bought and, got the CDs and the Bibles of all of these songs and whatnot. But the new music that's coming out, you get to look forward to new EPs, and you get to look forward to new albums and new singles, new music videos. And it's just extremely exciting to, become an avid follower of the new music scene. So I think, I'd definitely go and support the new artists like Tyler Bryant and the Temperance Movement, for example. We've had the honor of actually sharing the stage with the Temperance Movement a couple of times, and they're incredible, like really, really nice guys, and just fantastically talented musicians as well. And these are the bands of tomorrow, and these are the bands that we've got to all be, avidly supporting and carrying on into the future, because without fans and without music supporters, these bands can't survive within this industry. So just like how people did it back in the day, it's now even more important, especially when we're living in an online world, that we do it for bands of today as well. So, yeah, you're right.
You also have people like Anna Stella in the UK, too, promoting music, promoting new rock bands as well, which helps. You can't define how much it helps, because there's so many bands, and she does a great job of getting exposure for them and hopefully opening up doors for you guys and avenues, and just for exposure. I know a lot of stuff that she's done I never heard of, and I watch her interviews and I check out the bands that she's interviewing, and I'm like, wow, this is a great band too. So, it's important to support those people as well who are trying to get the music in front of you.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, even just a simple share on a social media platform, or a simple tweet, or a thumbs up or a comment on YouTube, for example. Like, even just something as simple as that, it just means the world to the bands that are releasing their new material. And you don't know who's going to see these posts. So when a smaller up and coming magazine company, for example, will share your music to the following that they have, you don't know as a band, who's seeing these posts and who is actually paying attention to what you're doing. So, supporting bands and sharing things in the underground kind of up and coming little businesses like magazines and radios and podcasts and all this, to include people like from bands such as myself onto these shows, and to include their music and to support them in that way, I think is an absolutely fantastic way to support these bands, and it really is brilliant. So, in advance, thank you so much for having me on the show as well, because it really does mean a lot to us fans. It really does, and we're very, very grateful for everything that people like you are doing for the up and coming scene. So thank you very, very much.
I love it. I love connecting with new music. I love doing whatever I can, because once I fall in love with something, I want other people to hear it. I've always been that way. And whether it's Ryders Creed or Takeaway Thieves or whoever it is, if I like it, I want more people to know about it and hear it. And I remember, whenever I was even in my younger days, when I would hear a new rock band, my friends would be in the car, and I'd put the new album in, and I put new songs in, and we just listen to it. I've always been one to do that, and I always enjoy doing it, and especially when the music is good. Right? I mean, that's half the battle. Yeah. And when you have the material like your debut album that I just love, it's really easy to want to share it.
Yeah, 100%. And that's an absolutely fantastic trait to have as well. There are a lot of people out there that share the same attitude and, share the same love and passion for what they're hearing and what they find out in the new music and stuff. So, and it's absolutely brilliant. I mean, I still believe, even now, even in this day and age of online and digital marketing and all this kind of stuff, I still believe, even now, that the power of word of mouth promotion is so powerful still, even today. Because when you talk to somebody in person about a piece of new music or a new movie or a music video, for example, and you show them a trailer or a little snippet of something, when you're actually talking to them in person about it, they can see how excited you are about it. They can hear in your voice how enthusiastic you are about it, and it makes them want to go and check it out. It's an extremely persuasive technique. Every single person, on the planet is an influencer in their own way. And to go to your best friend or to go to your family or to go to your son, for example, and say, oh, have you heard this piece of music or have you checked out this band? And, and they often say, no, I haven't. What are they like? And it just becomes this conversation. And next thing you know, maybe they're a massive fan as well. And they go off and talk to somebody else. So word of mouth is extremely important. And I think you're doing what you do when you talk to people about it and you follow them and you enthusiastically kind of showcase and tell people what you're into and stuff. I think that's an absolutely fantastic way also of promoting the bands that you discover. Takeaway Thieves, for example, like you just mentioned, who are an absolutely fantastic band, and we're very good friends with Neil from Takeaway Thieves, and lovely people, and they deserve the positive attitude. They deserve the enthusiasm and the excitement that fans and friends will promote them with to other people. So, word of mouth is absolutely incredible, man.
Well, let's talk about your debut record. I had a holy shit moment when I saw your video for Raise the Roof. That was my first exposure to you guys, and I have to hear this again, and I pretty much had it on repeat for a good hour or two, just listening to it. Just a phenomenal song. Brilliant. And, exposing me to that. Yeah. And then listening to the debut record, songs like Headspace and Promise and My Life, which I also really, really love. Yeah. So tell us about that whole recording process for this record and how you develop all these songs and, after that, what happened after that, with the response from your fans and new people.
So, thank you very much for those very, very kind comments about the album. I'm really, really chuffed that you loved our music so much, and that means a lot. But with the album, where that sort of came from is we were actually kind of rushed for time with our album, because when we first hit the scene as Ryders Creed, as this new band, and we were pushing ourselves out there, we wanted to make an impact, and we really wanted to, write and churn out this new material and get these original songs on the go and sort of really, really make an impact. And the way that we went about that was we just decided to keep all of the committed gigs that we were booked onto and play those whilst writing in the background. So we showcased some of our songs like Headspace. We wrote that. I think that was one of the first songs we wrote. I think Rise, our song Rise, which is the last track on our debut album, was the first song that we wrote together. But Headspace became something which was, a proper group effort. We really kind of slaved over that song and made sure that it was exactly how we wanted it to be. It was complex for us at the time. It was, there's a lot of sections and a lot of differences within Headspace itself, and that became very exciting. So when we showcased that live and we started playing that to fans, they loved it. They really did. So we recorded that as our first single back in January of 2018, and there was a couple of local radio stations that aired it and whatnot. The main radio station that we gave exclusivity to was a radio station called Great Music Stories, and a guy called Guy Bellamy. He's a very, very lovely bloke, and he did absolute wonders for us in the UK. And then the music video came out in April, and that kind of just hit it off really, and people were loving it. So when we started really writing more songs and releasing, other singles like Raise the Hoof, for example, the music video for that was, extremely fun, but also extremely painful because we really were being thrown about all over the place. And this guy came in, Steve, his name is, and he gave us like a crash course on like MMA fighting and how to fall on your face and hurt yourself, but in a way that looks good on camera but doesn't actually hurt you. And this 2.5 year profession that he'd been working on, he kind of crash coursed us in 5 minutes. So there was quite a lot of pain involved in that video. But yeah, when we released the album and went through the whole, writing process beforehand and recording process beforehand, it was all extremely new and extremely exciting for us. And, none of us in the band, in previous bands or anything, had ever released an actual album. We weren't sure whether to go for an EP first or whether to just go, straight for an album. And the album conversation won out of that because we thought, yeah, let's just release an album, let's give them loads of songs and then just tour the hell out of it. You know what I mean? Like, let's really just go and showcase it to as many people as possible around the UK. And we even ended up playing a show outside of the UK in Ibiza, or Ibiza, if I want to use the American pronunciation. And it was really, it's really, really great. But we are now more prepared from our debut and from going through that entire process for our new album that will be coming out next year. And the debuts really opened up a lot of doors for us. So it was a fantastic process.
Talk about that future. I know I saw on the website that you have new music coming in 2020. How has the evolution of Ryders Creed, gone from their debut album to the writing process now, the mixing process now, for the material that's about to come out in the next year?
So there's been a couple of changes within the band. In all fairness, we are now a 4-piece, whereas before we were a 5-piece. And our guitarist Lee decided that it would be best for him to depart from the band and leave the band, in search for a simpler and happier life. To get for his own reasons, he left, and that left us as a 4-piece. So now we've had to adapt our sound. We've had to figure out how to play the debut album material as a 4-piece, because it was very much a full 5-piece band sound, as I'm sure you'll agree. And it's become something now where our writing process has had to adapt, and we've had to adapt to how we write our songs and what we write our songs about. And I think that from the first album, which was more of a compilation album of different genres, rock and roll or hard rock or rock music itself, where we kind of just went into that project saying, we are not a one-trick pony band. We do not focus on one subgenre of rock. We want to be classed within the rock genre, So if we want to do a hard rock song, we will. If we want to do a softer, kind of more folky acoustic style rock song, then we will. And it was very much one of them where we just kind of wrote whatever we felt and put it down on paper. Whereas now our second album, the album that will be coming out next year, we're taking a very much more mature approach to the album. Our music is a lot more complex. It's a lot more emotive. There are some darker tunes within this. The lyrical basis of the tracks as well. I'm writing at the moment some of the best lyrics that I've ever written, but we are very, very aware as a band that the best songs that we will ever write, we haven't written yet, because that will come way later on down the line. However, what we can say about our new album is that we feel very strongly that yes, it is a different direction, but this album is really showcasing what Ryders Creed is now and how we write songs now and how we want to connect with our fans and our audiences now. So we've grown into this new music, and we feel very, very confident that our fans and new fans all over the world that don't even know that they're Ryders Creed fans yet are going to absolutely love it. So yeah, we're feeling very, very confident about album 2.
Was it a struggle to adapt to a 4-piece, or was it just a matter of time where you just had to figure it out and put the pieces back together in a 4-piece rather than a 5-piece?
Yeah, it was. I think. Yeah, you're right. It was just a matter of time. Really, we didn't find it difficult adapting to becoming a 4-piece. In fact, when Lee made his decision to leave, we were very, very supportive of that decision. Whatever's best for him is best for all of us, sort of thing. So we very much supported his decision to leave. And so when we became a 4-piece and had to adapt to a new writing style and a few new responsibilities within the band, and how we're going to start playing our material live, it became very, very much an experimental process. So Miles, for example, has gone through a lot of experimentation with pedal boards and where his amps are going to be placed and what equipment he's going to be using and whether it was going to take more equipment or less equipment and different on-stage setups. And that's exactly the same as what Richard's done as well. And, it's just a case of trial and error, adaptation, and really just kind of, instead of seeing problems, see solutions and find solutions for these things. So we've actually spent a very, very small amount of time in the grand scheme of things adapting to the writing style. We just kind of got on with it, and it's working really well for us. In fact, I think the direction that we're going and what we're doing is some of the best, the best sort of band experiences that we'll ever have. So, the writing process for album 2 and how we write it and how our stage setup will be is definitely now a lot sort of more mature, more adult, more comprehensive. So we feel very confident that we'll be able to pull it off on stage, better than we ever did. We feel very confident that where we are now, we're better than ever. So yeah, hopefully everybody else sees that as well.
What went into the decision to go down to a 4-piece rather than add someone to keep the band a 5-member unit?
So the way that we looked at it, the way that we've always seen it really is that Ryders Creed is a family. We're a family. We're a band of brothers, and we love what we do, and we're very, very close friends as well as just being in a band with each other. So when the band started as a 5-piece, that was something that was very, very fresh and very new to us. But over the past 2.5, nearly 3 years, we developed that kind of family orientated relationship with each other. So when Lee decided to leave, and we were then, by default kind of made a four-piece, we did actually have conversations on whether or not we should, get another guitarist in to fill the spot and, sort of build that relationship with a new musician or whatever, or whether we should just take what we are left with and play the cards as if it's the hand we wanted to be dealt. So what we did was we just decided, you know what, we'll try it. We'll go forward as a four-piece. We'll see if it's doable, and if it's not, then we'll bring another member in. If it is, then happy days, we can continue. And we found out very, very early on in that process that becoming a four-piece was actually an extremely strong move on our part. It means that we got to experiment with a lot more on-stage technology and figuring out how we can build our sound and make some truly incredible pieces of music, but just as our close unit, instead of having to go through the whole process of, building a relationship with somebody that may have potentially been a total stranger to us. If we held auditions, who knows who would have turned up. So I think we just stuck with what we know and decided to go forward as a four-piece, and we're very much enjoying the whole process of that. So yeah, I don't think there's any, for the foreseeable anyway. There's no plans of becoming a five-piece. We're gonna rock it forward as a four-piece from now on.
And as you said too, I imagine that is a difficult thing to decide, because you are, like you said, a family, and you have been playing with each other since 2017. So there's a certain level of comfort everyone has with each other, and everyone is on the same page with the journey and direction the band is going. And to bring in someone that is new to that, it could be a fresh outlook, it could be a fresh perspective, and that could be a positive, but also there's the danger of someone, not jiving or not, being on the same page the other four members are. So there is the reward aspect, and then there's the risk. And I have to imagine going through that decision-making process that, with all the momentum that you guys have, I think there was probably more of a risk to bring someone in who hasn't been part of the evolution of Ryders Creed and from the beginning. I think that was probably a bigger risk for you guys to take on than you wanted to at this time.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, if we were to bring somebody in, whether we know them outside of the band or whether they're a total stranger to us, it doesn't matter how talented they are. It's about how well their personality and their writing style and their ability would gel with us as a band. So it would have put us back on our ideal schedule quite a long time. And if we got a guitarist in and he didn't fit, and it took us a couple of months to figure out that he or she didn't fit in the band, we'd have to go through the same process again and sort of remove him from the band and get somebody else in. You've got to look at it as well as it being a family, as a business as well. And we have an obligation to the contract with our label to make sure that there's an album coming out next year. We also have obligation and kind of duty of care almost to our fans as well. We promise them new music. If we don't bring them new music, then because we've had to push things back or try new guitarists, and maybe it gets pushed back a year or a year and a half or however long that had happened for, the iron would very, very quickly go cold, and the momentum would slow down. It would completely disrupt the status quo of Ryders Creed, and it's just all round better for us to stick to what we know and to keep the circle small and keep ourselves to keep this family kind of tight-knit unit together, instead of going through the entire sort of ball-ache process of getting another guitarist in and stuff, and sort of building that relationship from the ground up with somebody completely new. So I think it was and is the best decision for us to stay as a four-piece for those exact reasons. Yeah.
How would you describe Ryders Creed? Like, if you were to tell people about your band, how would you describe it?
That's a good question. I haven't been asked that one before. How would I describe Ryders Creed? What I would say I'd say Ryders Creed are an original hard rock band from the UK. Before you watch our videos and before you listen to our music, keep an open mind of what our songs mean to you. The most important thing to us as a band is how the fan and how the listener perceives and relates to and emotionally connects with our music. So go into it with an open mind. You know, what I would say is that in some of our songs, our influences are apparent, and in some of our songs, it doesn't sound like anything else you've ever heard. And I think that that's, part of our journey to discovering the true sound of Ryders Creed. But I guess if somebody was, if I was to describe Ryders Creed, I'd say we are a rock band. We are a hard rock band, and we're full of energy, and we give everything we do. We give 110% effort, and you will be able to see that we do this because we love every second of it. And I guess that's the most important thing. Fans seeing us enjoying ourselves ultimately enjoy themselves a lot more whilst watching us, even if we're not their cup of tea. So what I'd say is Ryders Creed are a hard rock band. Go into supporting them with an open mind.
Very good. Very good. Now, the new record is out 2020. Is there a time frame to when the fans can expect that?
Yes. So I think the only thing about the album that's coming out next year that we're allowed to say at the moment is that the album will be called Lost Souls, and it will be coming out next year. And it's, in our opinion, better than anything we've released previously. So basically all I think I'm allowed to say on this is be excited and stay excited and keep your eyes out, because any updates, any little cheap, like juicy details, we will be uploading onto our socials, and we will be letting people know the second that we are allowed to do so. So just keep your eyes on our social medias, keep your eyes on the band, and little cheeky Easter eggs and stuff like that will be, making appearances in due course. So that's kind of all I'm allowed to say, really. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I totally get it. I can say that, when you do talk about, what's coming in the future, I could tell that you're really excited about it. I could tell that you can't wait for people to hear it.
Oh yeah. Yeah, 100%. Extremely excited. We're all really, really eager. We have some tracks from the album done already, and we just want to push them out and get them out to people now. But obviously, there's a process to the whole thing, so we've got to kind of sit on our hands and twiddle our thumbs and kind of wait. Sort of them. You can't do anything about it.
What's the plans for playing live and touring after this record comes out?
We do have plans for a tour. It is a fairly large tour because, the way that we look at it is that back in the day, bands used to release an album and then they would tour that album practically non-stop for like a year or 2 years, and we really, really love the idea of doing that. And so our plan is that there will be a release tour. There will be a UK release tour that will be going on in celebration of the launch of our album. And then after that, it's just simply a case of booking ourselves up onto as many festivals, as many gigs, as many events as we possibly can from then on, really, just to make sure that our music hits as many people as possible. There have been talks about European dates, and flying across the pond to play a few places in Europe and different places like that. But that's all very much up in the air at the moment still. But we're very, very much planning on pushing this new music and our new performance out to as many people as possible. And to do that, you have to gig. So what I will say is expect a lot of shows from Ryders Creed in 2020 and 2021. It's going to be extremely exciting, and we're going to hopefully push ourselves up to that next step within the industry. So, yeah, very, very exciting. Loads of shows.
My fingers will continue to be crossed for U.S. dates because, with you guys, yeah, and the other bands in the U.K., I mentioned Takeaway Thieves, there's Massive Wagons, there's so many other great bands in the U.K. right now. And unfortunately, they don't get to come to the U.S. Yeah, and unfortunately, they don't get to come to the U.S. as much as we'd like, as much as bands did in the past. The expense is very high for an up-and-coming band to come and play that, and we understand that. But I do keep my fingers crossed that at some point, some of the bands like yourselves will hit the road and come to North America.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, our dream within this band is to perform our music all over the world to as many people as physically possible. And I'm sure that is a shared dream of many of the UK bands that are up and coming, like Takeaway Thieves and Massive Wagons, that you just mentioned, two incredible bands, as well as many, many more as well. I mean, bands that we've gigged with, bands like Empire and the Rocket Dolls and Hollow Star and Wicked Stone, so many amazing up-and-coming rock bands in the UK. All of us dream of crossing the pond and doing tours in the USA and gigging in every single state that we can possibly get into. And, it just comes down to the simple and yet really annoying factor of cost. Nowadays, for a band, even a successful band, to make a lot of money doing what they do and doing what they love is an extremely difficult task. And it's a very, very difficult thing to achieve, especially in the music industry at the moment. Back in the day, record labels, they find a band, grab a band, give them a signing bonus, and then using their money, they'd shoot them off across the world to all these different venues and shows and festivals and whatnot, and they'd pay to promote these bands, and soon, almost within no time at all, everybody everywhere would know about these bands, and record labels just unfortunately don't work like that anymore. The money in record labels is not given to bands and spent on sending these bands all over the place. The money now is in online sales and advertising costs and all of the above. And I think that because the industry's changed in that way, the market has become extremely saturated with bands. I mean, you go anywhere and pretty much everyone's in a band nowadays, or everybody's a musician or in the industry in some way, but to really sort of make it nowadays, you've got to make sure that your online sales and your streams are there, because the only real way that bands nowadays make money is from merch sales at gigs and from venues or promoters paying them a fee to play. So, to gain the money to go over to America and get our visas and, be able to earn money over there and stuff is a very, very highly difficult thing to do. However, I will say with utmost confidence that it is on every single up-and-coming rock UK band's to-do list. And it is definitely a goal that a lot of us have set ourselves to achieve. So, within the next sort of 10 years, hopefully you will be seeing Ryders Creed in your neck of the woods.
I'm hoping, because I love you guys. You guys have great music. I really enjoy listening to you, and I'll keep my fingers crossed and hope for the day that I'm buying Ryders Creed tickets to go see you guys.
Yeah, me too.
Well, thanks, Ryan, for doing this. I appreciate it. You know, I love the conversation. I can't wait for the new music to come out, and I will be enjoying the current music that you have. I love the debut record. It's not new, but I love the debut record. So I look forward to it, and thank you very much for doing this.
Brilliant. Thank you very, very much for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure to chat to you. Anytime that you want to chat, just let us know and we'll get back on a phone call. It'd be really, really good to talk to you again. So thank you very, very much for having me, and thank you to all of your listeners for hearing me out.
Well, let's do that. Let's do that when the debut, or I'm sorry, not the debut, the second album comes out. Let's get a conversation going, and we'll talk about the record.
Yeah, sounds good to me. Sounds good to me, man. I'm totally down for that.
Well, perfect. Once again, everybody, this has been a new episode of the New Music Spotlight with Ryan Antony of Ryders Creed. It is the last New Music Spotlight of 2019. I've enjoyed showcasing all the bands we've had here this past year. We look forward to doing it next year. Once again, this is Jay Scott. This is The Hook Rocks, the Ultimate Rock Community Podcast. We will talk again soon. Thank you.
Thank you.